The night. The fireworks hid the sound of justice, you know? They say time heals all wounds. That's what the greeting cards say. That's what the therapists tell you when you're paying them $100 an hour. But in my experience, time doesn't heal anything. Time just gives the infection space to grow. It was the 4th of July. The humid Kentucky air was so thick you could almost chew it. Down in the valley, the town of Oak Haven was getting ready for the big show. Hot dogs, cheap beer, and enough gunpowder to wake the dead. Everyone loved the Oak Haven Independence Day celebration, but I wasn't there for the cotton candy. I was sitting on the hood of a rusted-out Ford pickup truck, parked on the ridge overlooking the Miller estate, checking my watch for the 1,000th time. 22 years. That's how long I'd been waiting for this exact moon phase, this exact holiday, this exact cover. See, folks around here, they treat the Miller brothers like royalty. They built the new stadium. They paved the roads. Mayor Miller, that's the oldest one. He cuts the ribbon at every charity event, smiling that big, white, shark-like smile. But I remember a different smile. I was 10 years old, just a scrawny kid with a plastic baseball bat and a dream of playing for the Braves. My dad, he was a mechanic, honest, hands always stained with grease. We had a little plot of land near the creek that the Millers wanted for a golf course. Dad said no. He said, "This is where your mama planted her hydrangeas. We ain't selling." It was a Tuesday. I remember because we were having tacos. The 3 Miller brothers showed up, not with lawyers, but with baseball bats of their own. Real ones. Ashwood. Heavy. They didn't knock. They kicked the door in. I hid in the pantry, peeking through the slats. I watched them drag my father out into the front yard. I watched them beat him until he stopped moving. And the worst part? The sheriff pulled up just as they were finishing. Sheriff Grady, a man who had eaten Sunday dinner at our table. He didn't arrest them. He didn't call an ambulance. He looked at the oldest Miller brother and said, "Make sure you clean up the mess before the press gets wind of this." They marked it down as a tragic accident, a robbery gone wrong. My dad was buried in a pine box. The Millers built their golf course, and I was shipped off to foster care. A ghost in my own hometown. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just remembered. I joined the Marines the day I turned 18. I learned how to breathe slow. I learned how to become invisible. I learned that if you wait long enough, your enemy will get comfortable. They'll get fat. They'll forget. And tonight, the Millers were definitely comfortable. From my vantage point on the ridge, I could see them on their patio. The champagne was flowing. The oldest brother, the mayor, was laughing, slapping his brother on the back. They looked untouchable. I checked my watch. 9:58 p.m. The grand finale was scheduled for 10 o'clock sharp. The town budget was massive this year. They promised a solid 3 minutes of non-stop, earth-shaking thunder. I picked up my rifle. It wasn't a military-grade sniper, just a simple hunting rifle. The kind my dad used to teach me with. I started walking down the trail. The leaves were dry, but I knew how to step. Heel to toe. Roll the weight. Silence. I reached the tree line just as the first whistle shrieked into the sky. Pop. A green starburst. The crowd down in the valley cheered. I raised the scope. The crosshairs settled on the mayor's chest. He was holding a glass of wine, albeit, looking up at the sky, admiring the lights he paid for with blood money. Boom. The first big mortar went off. The ground shook. I squeezed the trigger. The mayor's glass shattered. He crumpled into the patio furniture. The sound of the shot was swallowed whole by the explosion of red and blue sparks above. His brothers didn't even notice. They were too busy looking up, cheering at the pretty lights. Boom. Boom. A double tap from the fireworks display. I cycled the bolt. The second brother, the one who actually swung the bat that killed my dad, he was laughing at something the mayor's wife said. He didn't see his brother fall. He didn't see anything. I exhaled. Crack. He dropped like a sack of cement. Now, the panic started to set in on the patio, not because they heard the shots, but because people were falling down. The youngest brother, the investor, he started looking around, confused. He thought maybe they were having heart attacks. He didn't know the Reaper was standing 40 yards away in the dogwoods. The grand finale was hitting its peak now, a wall of noise, a cacophony of celebration. I lined up the third shot. He looked right at me. I don't know if he saw me, or if he just felt the eyes of a ghost. Boom. It was over. 3 shots, 3 bodies. And the town down below was cheering louder than ever, clapping for the beautiful show, completely unaware that justice had finally been served. I didn't run. Running is for criminals. I wasn't a criminal. I was a debt collector. I walked out of the woods, walked right up the driveway, and sat on their front porch swing. I lit a cigarette. My hands weren't shaking. I felt light. For the first time in 22 years, the weight was gone. The sirens started about 10 minutes later. The fireworks had faded into smoke. The silence returned. And in that silence, the screams of the family members finally reached the neighbors. A squad car came tearing up the gravel driveway, gravel flying everywhere. I put my hands on my knees, palms open. The door flew open. A deputy stepped out, gun drawn. "Hands! Let me see your hands!" he screamed. I looked up. It wasn't Sheriff Grady. Old Grady had been dead for years. It was his son, Rick. We were in the same 3rd grade class. I remembered him. He was the kid who used to share his lunch with me when I didn't have any. Rick walked up the steps, trembling. He saw the bodies on the patio. He saw the rifle leaning against the railing. He saw me. He lowered his gun. "Elias?" he whispered. "Is that you?" "It's me, Rick," I said. My voice sounded rusty. "I'm done. You can take me in." Rick looked at the bodies again. He looked at the mayor, the man who had bankrupted half the town while lining his own pockets. He looked at the other brothers, men who had terrorized this county for decades. Then he looked at me. He saw the scars on my arms. He saw the 20 years of hell in my eyes. He slowly holstered his gun. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a pack of gum. He took a piece, chewed it for a second, and then looked out at the lake. "You know," Rick said, his voice low, "the dash cam on my cruiser. It's been acting up all week, just glitches out. Doesn't record a thing." I stared at him. "Rick, what are you doing?" He walked over to the railing. He picked up my rifle. He pulled out a handkerchief, wiped the stock, wiped the trigger, wiped the barrel. Then, with a heave, he tossed it into the deep, dark water of the lake. Splash. He turned back to me. "There were reports of a drifter," Rick said, rehearsing the line. "Looking for food. Probably hopped a train out of town an hour ago. We'll set up a perimeter, but he's probably long gone." "Rick Ibzal," I said, standing up. "You can't do this." He grabbed me by the shoulder, hard. "My daddy," Rick's voice cracked. "My daddy died screaming, seeing the faces of the people he wronged. I ain't going out like that. This town needed a cleaning, Elias. You just took out the trash." He pointed toward the woods, toward the old train tracks that ran north. "Go," he whispered. "Don't ever come back here. You died 22 years ago, Elias. Stay dead." I looked at him one last time. Then, I turned and ran into the darkness. Behind me, I heard Rick key his radio. "Dispatch, this is Deputy Grady. I'm on the scene. Suspect is gone. I repeat, suspect is gone." I walked until the sun came up. I didn't know where I was going, and I didn't care. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't looking back.
Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for upcoming videos.